Happy Monday. I hope that you guys are having a great Monday. And I'll continue to let people in. I will send out this recording. It'll probably go out tomorrow morning just because this will probably be a full hour and then it'll take time to process and I will already be in bed. But I will make sure that it gets out first thing in the morning in case you want to be looking at it. So let me just go right ahead and share my screen. Let me make sure. I'll continue to let people in. Let me move this up. Can you, everybody see this saying how to build your first diet? I hope so. Okay. So tonight I'm going to take you step by step through how to create your fat loss diet. And this is exactly what I will be doing with a one-to-one client. It's exactly what we do in Look Like You Train in the group in terms of the templates I build. So I'm going to take you through this exactly what I'd be doing. Okay. If you are new to Lean Bodies Consulting, hopefully you're not because we've been around forever, but if you are new to Lean Bodies Consulting, who are we? So Lean Bodies Consulting has actually been around for 20 plus years. Eric, my husband, was the founder of Lean Bodies Consulting, and I joined him quite a long time ago. We've now both been coaches. I'm in year 17 now. And like I said, Eric's over 20 years. So we've really been in this space for a long, long time. 95% of our client base is females. And if you've followed us for, a decade plus, you know that we used to do mostly contest prep. So a lot of contest prep. Now, as we've gotten older, I'm 46, we've shifted a bit in that, the goal is still, the mission is still to look like you train, but also while really prioritizing health. I mean, competition is nowhere even close to being healthy, but prioritizing health and continuing to keep it evidence-based. It's one thing that I know Eric has always really taken pride on is really being above the fads and above the lies and things like that. Um, who am I? I am a former, struggler with fat loss. I was 90 pounds overweight in my 20s. My mid 20s, I was already 230 pounds, struggled with weight, watched my mom throughout my, childhood on into my adulthood struggle with it. She ended up getting a gastric bypass. I ended up thankfully having a moment, essentially when my son was young, and I went on to lose 90 pounds the good old fashioned way with basically a calorie restriction. I did Weight Watchers for the bulk of it, but found Eric through my journey in that I was really at a point where I was eating so very little to barely be able to maintain, if not really gain. And I was having all sorts of, food issues, obsessions, because I just wasn't doing it in a sustainable approach. And so I found Lean Bodies Consulting to really help me rebuild my metabolism, have a healthier relationship with food. And with that, I ended up creating our food sub calculator. I have, created a cookbook through it. I've, done all this through also having a family. So if you are someone that is like, you know what, I just want someone that maybe can relate to me and I'm a parent, well, I'm there with you. We have 5 kids, between the two of us, all in-house. We homeschool 3 of our younger children that are this year 8th grade, 9th grade, and 11th grade. So we're busy. We get it. We totally understand that it has to be an approach that's not just sustainable, that, is not time consuming, not restrictive, all of that, right? So tonight I'm going to show you exactly what our meal templates look like. So like if a one-to-one client was to hire me, what that would look like. Then I'm going to take you through step by step, setting up your initial calories, setting up an ideal day and really talking about the importance of that. And then, of course, how to use our food sub calculator. You'll have free access to it because we really hate MyFitnessPal over time. Long-term sustainable approach is not using a macro tracker. And so we are really, really big on building a meal template that then you create versions of that from, instead of every day starting over from Groundhog Day essentially with your calories and macros. Okay. I will, let me just put this in the chat if you want to keep a copy of this. Let me put this in here. Oh no, that's the Zoom link that's going in there. Hold on, let me get this. If it will let me. Okay. Well, maybe not. Let me go get it this other way, and I will send this in the chat. Okay, so that is the original article that Eric actually created. He wrote that in 2013. And it's what we're going to be really following tonight. It's stood the test of time all these years in terms of how to build and how to create that initial fat loss diet. Sorry, just letting in a few more people here. So, oops, someone else. So going through this, I'm going to show you, this is what a meal template would look like for an initial setup of a client coming in. It's going to basically have a couple options at each meal. The things based on what they like. So, maybe this client, she likes to have eggs in the morning more times than not. Keep in mind, more times than not. We're not going to put you into a meal plan that you're fixed into and you're not able to change. We're first going to, what I show this to you for is because we're hoping at the end of this, after we create and set up your calories and your macro breakdown, you then go on to do this next step, which is really building that meal template of the things that you most commonly eat and enjoy. Okay. So before we find your fat loss calories and how much you need for your fat loss diet, you really actually need to find your maintenance. And most people, they usually get freaked out when they see this number, and it's because they've been under eating for so long that what they see as their maintenance is really a caloric deficit. And it's just, you've either been a serial dieter where you've just downregulated that metabolism over time, where now your body sees what should be a caloric deficit as maintenance. But a true maintenance in a healthy body is 14 to 15 times body weight. I'd say 15 meaning a healthier body, and 14 even in a body that has been, down regulated. Your goal is to be weight stable at 14 times body weight at the very, very least, right? You're really hoping that it's 15. So like when I first hired Eric, I was one of those people that when he gave me my diet, I actually gained, some of it was inflammation, some of it, yes, was fat. And that was that my body was not seeing what should be seen as a caloric deficit. It was seeing it as really a surplus. And so we had to slowly upregulate my metabolism and, get me to a place where I could actually, diet on what should be dieting calories. So we're going to assume that 14 to 15 times body weight is a reasonable, estimate for what should be your maintenance. Okay. Based on all the calculators that are out there, there's so many of them out there, you really end up getting right to these numbers, which is the 14 to 15. And then when we're setting it up for a fat loss diet, we're going to really set that at around 11, but we'll go into that. So based on the calculators out there, you just want to get an index card, and we'll go through this, as we really do the homework, but you're going to get an index card and put your current weight at the top. And then, I'll just scroll down really quick to my card. Hold on, right here. So at the top, put your current weight, and then you're going to put what your maintenance calorie range will be. So since we have the 14 to 15, you're going to put, my range. So if you weigh 175, you're going to hit times 14, and that's going to be 2450. And then you're going to do 175 times 15, and that's going to be 2625. And so you're going to say, okay, my maintenance is 2450 to 2625. Okay, with your weight at the top. Does everybody have that so far? If you do, put it in the chat. Say, yes, I do. I've got at least my maintenance. Now that you see that number, how many of you are shocked that that should be your maintenance calories, that you should be able to eat that amount and maintain? I know for myself, the first time doing this, back in 2006, I think it was when I hired Eric, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that I should be able to, eat. What if you're overweight? So it depends. Okay, so overweight is a pretty broad term, and we'll talk about that. If you I would want to know your height and weight and share it with me. Give me your height and weight, and I'll be able to tell you exactly if I feel like you need to do what we call like a little more. I mean, maintenance still for you, even if you're overweight, still will be 14 to 15 times body weight. But again, if you are a serial dieter and you are someone that has been, dieting a lot of your life, even if it's been unsuccessfully, those hormones and your metabolism is downregulated. And so you are someone that, unfortunately has to, or this person has to fill in more calories first before they really embark on fat loss. Okay, so 5'9", 265. Yes. So we will show you the exception to the rule. It's kind of what we call a reverse taper, in that you're going to be you have more overall body fat, which means you just have more regulatory hormone protection, which allows you to be a bit more aggressive on your deficit. So for you, let me just do a little bit of math here. I'm going to see what I'd probably not go any lower than 9 times body weight. Okay, because 9 times body weight is going to put you at 2365. Let me just go back to the chat and make sure I've got this right. So, 265 times 9, that's 2385 would be your fat loss numbers. Okay, we would take you a little bit lower. Maintenance is still maintenance for you regardless, right? We're just allowing you to go a little bit less on that. So we can talk more about it as we clear it up, but I would be setting your, so still put your 14 to 15 up there based on the 265. That truly is your maintenance. And then when we get ready to set your fat loss calories, Kaylee, you're going to take that times 9. So for someone like you, Chris, and this just sucks when you are lighter in weight and, you're shorter, that doesn't really change anything, right? What it just means is someone like you, lifestyle wise, really has to incorporate this. Like, you got to find the foods and the things that work for you, because your maintenance, 10 times 15 is 1650. Like, and I guarantee you, you're just as hungry as someone like me that weighs more than you. And so from my experience with lighter people, there's a couple things. One, you are going to have to, you will maintain on less, and you have to learn as a lifestyle to like really, really navigate that in a way that all the volume of foods to eat. You probably eat more fibrous foods. You really prioritize protein, et cetera, et cetera. Second to that, to offset a bit of that, people that are lighter weight tend to need, they need to get more what we call that NEAT, that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And this is like more steps, more walking, not intense activity, but you're the person that when it comes to weight maintenance, parking far away from the store, doing an extra lap around, like those things will make a difference in weight stability. Not so much the fat loss. Fat loss, you've still got to just go down into that, deficit. And that's very hard for people that are lighter in weight. So sorry about that. I always apologize when I see lighter, clients, because I just know food wise. Okay, Kaylee, I'm glad that helped you. So, okay, so have your maintenance numbers at the top. Okay. Now, if you've been dieting for an extended period of time and eating much lower than this, we'd recommend, to get to a place where, like I said, you want to be weight stable at 14. With the goal of ultimately getting to 15, that's a healthy place and above, like I'm now years later, I am able to eat, well, let's see, right now, let's just figure it out, because I'm eating 2250 and I weigh 138. So I'm eating 16 times body weight. So I'm actually eating technically above that maintenance, and I'm really holding steady here. So that just goes to show you can have a little bit of that swing, but just based on metabolic health being really healthy and able to handle more, and that metabolic health being poor in that, it's suppressed, it's downregulated, all of that. So, okay, so going on to this, why do I need to be weight stable at a higher calorie amount? Like, what does it matter? Well, I mean, of course, like I said, besides health reasons, it makes it easier to diet. If people would only look at this as a bigger, longer game in that, sure, I think all of us can agree that we can eat a lower amount of calories aggressively for short periods of time. We've all probably crash dieted at one point in our life. But here's the thing, if it worked, you'd still already be at your goal. You'd not be on this video, on this Zoom call, learning how to set this up because you'd already be there. So you have to accept that what you've done in the past doesn't work. The goal in being able to eat more allows, like for someone like me, I mean, eating 2250 every day, do you know how easy it is to stick to my diet? Have y'all seen my Ninja Creamy at night and the fun treats that I get to put in that thing? This is all due to me, one, taking those dieting breaks and eating at maintenance, but seeing the importance of doing that. Okay. So now that we know our maintenance calories, we want to set our deficit calories. And the reason why I want to even share that maintenance with you first is you need to see that the numbers are not like so crazy different and that life is like, partying it up when we're at maintenance versus when we're in a deficit. It does not change that much in terms of like what changes in my life. Like I'm still meal prepping, I'm still cooking meals, I'm still weighing and measuring my food. Now at maintenance, I do lose a lot of that because I have mastered weighing food and knowing portions so that when I did get to maintenance, I can intuitively eat. But the point in this example really is to show you that my foods pretty much stay the same. It's just, yeah, I do get a little bit more over here, but behaviorally, I still have to like live here and work just as hard. So when we're setting up our deficit calories, you're going to basically, it's a range between 10 to 12 times body weight. For tonight's purposes and for what we do with clients and what we do in Look Like You Train, we start everyone at 11 times body weight, with the exception of people like I mentioned, Kaylee, and why I wanted to know her height and her weight. Because here's a great example. I could get someone that's 5'9" and they're 210 pounds. And I'm going to say that that person is really actually not like overweight versus the person that is 210 pounds, but 5'2" or 5'3". So see, same weight, but different heights. I mean, I'd want to even see pictures typically as well if I'm kind of questioning it, because if that person does have more weight to lose, then you can go a little bit lower, 8 to 9 times body weight. Okay. So let's do an example. Let's say that Sally's 150 pounds. We know her dieting calories would be anywhere between that 10 to 12, which is 15 to 1800. Starting on the low end, is maybe, hey, maybe that's going to bring you some results, initially like faster, but really honestly, it just downregulates your metabolism. You have no room of, nowhere to go in terms of, calories in terms of adjustments. So this is where we like to start at 11 times body weight. So in this case, if the person is weighing 150, we're going to start them at 1650. So right now, what I want you to do on your card is you're going to write out, well, let me go down to it here. Hold on. Let me just check the chat. Yeah, Chris. Yeah, so 110 times 12. Exactly. We'll talk more about that, Chris, because it's definitely a challenge. Like I said, I have a client right now. She's like 114, and we've done some zigzag dieting where she'll do like 2 weeks on, but like you would at the very least probably diet on 11 times body weight and know that fat loss would come much slower for you. You're not going to be losing a pound per week. Okay. Like it just won't happen because we'll just do the math. But, so setting this up, let me just show you my card again. Sorry to scroll so quick. So now you're going to have your current weight, your maintenance calories, and then number 1, you're going to put your weight amount times 11 and put that number over here. We're going to kind of make this like a banking, like a checkbook balance, balancing those things. Okay. So now that we know calories, there's going to be a few things that I'm going to take you through, and then don't worry, we're going to then get out our cards after I kind of do a little bit of teaching, and you're going to do the same exact thing. So a couple of things to know moving forward, just so that you know how to do the math on these things when you're on your own. And that is that You know, when we talk about our macronutrients, we're really talking about our protein, our carbs, and our fat. Okay. Protein and carbs, they both are equal in that they are 4 calories per gram. So when you see on the back of a nutrition label, if it says it has 6 grams of protein, well, you're going to know that that is 6 times 4, and that's 24 calories worth of protein in that item. If you see fat, fat is going to be 9 calories per gram. So if something says it has 10 grams of fat in it, you know that it has 90 calories of fat in that food. Okay, so you can do the reverse math without knowing, like if I didn't know the calories on this, I could just go down to the macronutrients and figure out the calories based on doing that reverse math. But this doesn't have any calories, so we will move on. Okay, so first we're going to set up our calories. We just did that. Step 2 is that we were going to add in protein. Okay, protein being the most important. If you've done the challenge here, any of our challenges actually over the last year, we always include protein in these challenges because you know what, ladies, y'all are not getting enough protein in, like at all. Like it's crazy how low it is. I'm actually getting ready to go to Turkey in less than 2 weeks. And you know what, the thing I'm most concerned about is just making sure I have enough protein. Like I really am, because I just know how important it is. So protein triggers muscle protein synthesis and offers a high level of satiety. I mean, how many of you have tried to get your protein in and you're like, oh my gosh, now that I'm trying to hit my protein limits, I'm like not even hungry at all. It really, really helps regulate hunger. You're going to want to set your protein intake in between 0.8 and 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. Okay. So for the sake of it being very easy and it's just a solid average place, we're going to just use the number 1. So if you weigh 175, you're aiming for 175 grams of protein. Now, again, those that have a lot more to lose, let's say you are 250 pounds plus, it's a lot of protein to try to get in. I would still aim as close as you possibly can because you're still going to have to fill that up, whether it be with carbs or fats. And I'd much rather it be in protein. So the goal would be to still hit that 1 gram. Okay. You know, if you have heard some of the old myths of, you know, concerns of it being too high. I mean, honestly, I'd be surprised if we're still hearing that because now there's so much protein information. If you follow like Gabrielle Lyons or anyone like that, where their whole platform is literally just researching protein, they're actually seeing that even people with kidney disease, and that was like the big issue before, still a higher intake in protein was superseding, you know, not having that in the diet, and it wasn't affecting the kidneys. So just know that anyone telling you that, you need to like unfollow them immediately. They are out of touch with their information. Okay. Next, after we do the protein, so you can, you know, we'll go to this piece of paper again, go to your card, and we're going to go to number 2. Okay. So now we've got the 150 pounds times 11. Now we've got the 150 grams of protein for me because I weigh 150. So whatever yours is, times 4, because remember, they're 4 calories per gram. So I've got 150 grams times 4. That's going to be 600 of my calories. Okay. So whatever yours is, do the math on that and we'll come back. Let me actually, I need to plug in my computer up all of that. 1 second. All right. We just have to. Okay. Okay. So from here, once we do our protein, we always take it in the direction we need to add in our omega-3s. Most people are, and I mean, maybe you're already taking fish oil, but you're not factoring it into your calories. You're not factoring it into your day. And honestly, most people aren't taking enough. Okay. So I always like at this point in the presentation to actually show you a label and teach you this. So you're going to want to add in between 1.8 and 3 grams of combined EPA, DHA per day. Okay, so let me show you a label. Okay, so remember what I said, between 1.8 and 3.0. So on this one, it's already showing you that 2 soft gels has a total combined EPA and DHA of 1,400. So for 2 soft gels, I'm going to have a combined total of 1,400. So I'm actually already in between. I'm in the range. I could even technically add a third soft gel, one more in there, and that would give me another 700, right? So I'd be at 2.1, right? 2.1, or I could even go, let's see, if I want to go for a double dose, right? 4 soft gels, that's actually going to give me the 1,400 times 2, so 2,800, which is 2.8. So I'm going to go there because I want to be on the top range. So I'm going to have 4 soft gels, 4 of these in my meal plan. And as you can see here, 1 serving is 15 calories. So I'm actually going to have 30 calories of this. Okay. So we're going to be factoring this in. So you can go look at your fish oil, because here's the thing, no 2 fish oils are alike, and that you might be like, oh, I'm getting this one, it's a great deal, but you're going to have to you're going to have to consume like 8 fish or soft gels to hit this EPA and DHA amount. So be aware of that as you're looking at the back of labels and how many you have to take. You know, I used to buy one that I thought was, reasonable, but I was still taking 6 to 7 a day. I could technically take as low as 3 of these, per day and be within that range. Okay. So you'd want to factor that in. I'm going to say that most of you are going to be consuming between 25 to 40 calories of fish oil. I say that because some of them, if they're weaker, you're going to have to take more. And so that's going to add in more calories, but we'll add that in. So coming down to your card, we've got your protein as number 2, which is 150 grams. You weigh 150, and put that 600 there, or whatever your number is. And then your fish oil. So for me, mine is 30. So I'm going to deduct that. So now we've got my 1,650, and we can do it on either side because you're going to see in a minute why I have both of these templates. That's 1,650 minus the 630, and that's now going to leave me with 1,020 left. Okay. Does everyone understand that so far? And the reason why I'm showing you 2 is you're going to see a day that I'm going to have more carbs included and one day that is more fats included, because remember, I'm going to show you some ranges here. But does this make sense so far? I hope so. Let's see. Okay, so from there, we're going to start to fill in the rest. Okay, so despite what maybe you've read or the latest, like I'm so tired of low carb fats. I'm telling you, I'm just so tired of it. But if you have, gone into under a hole and felt like you needed to go low carb, this is my me giving you permission to not go low carb. Okay. Now I'm going to show you there's some ways of filling in the rest, but what you do need to know is carbohydrates also play a critical role. And especially during our perimenopause and menopause stage of life, we still need carbohydrates. So, you need a reasonable amount of them to help maintain thyroid function. There are exceptions to the rules. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I have a couple clients actually that really do well inflammation wise and how they feel, more of a ketogenic setup in that their carbs are probably 70 grams or less, but we're talking outliers. This is like not done for faster fat loss. This is because they have medical reasons or have done better inflammation wise with that. Otherwise, you want to set this up pretty balanced because they do play a critical role. Okay. And then of course, your fats, just because we added those EFAs in does not mean that, we have added in enough fats into our diet. Now, we don't want to go below a 15% of your total calories per day towards fats. And so I'm going to show you how we'll have like a range here that you can play with on both of those days. All right. So, coming down to your card, and I'm going to show you on both sides. So this left side here, this one over here, is one that I would build more for like a training day, a day that I'm going to be strength training in the gym. And I do know that I want to be prioritizing carbohydrates. And then this one is going to be on my off day, because we always have 2 meal templates that we build for clients. And we like to swing those carbs a bit. You could even swing it even more than what I'm showing you this in this example, but essentially we're now at step 4. Okay. So step 4 is you need to find your fat floor. Now, as I mentioned to you, you're not going to really want to go below 20%. And most of you are probably not going to go above 30% because we're going to kind of even these out. All right. So what I like to do is I like to put both of them on my piece of paper. So it's essentially like you can even talk to Google or, type it in, but I just put in 20% of, and whatever your calorie amount is for the day, your fat loss calories. So in this case, it's 1650. So 20% of 1650 is, and it tells me it's 330. Okay. And then I go back and do what is 30% of 1650, and it gives me 495. So that's like my range. So if I take it straight down the middle, that's at 25%. That's actually going to give me 413 calories. Okay. Let me continue to make sure I'm checking the chat. Okay. So from there, I'm going to choose the 413. Now, remember, I told you at the beginning that each gram of fat is 9 calories. So I know the total amount of calories, because remember, it's easiest to figure out our calories. I just don't know how many grams of fat, right? So I'm going to take that 413, divide it by 9, and that tells me that I have 45.8 grams of fat. So we're going to round it up to 46. Okay. So that's this number right here. Okay. So we know now that I had 1,020 left after we spent our protein and our fish oil. Okay. Then I knew I was going to spend 413 on fat, and that leaves me with 607 calories left for carbs. And then very easy, we take that 607, divide it by 4, because those are, carbs are 4 calories per gram. So 607 divided by 4. Oops, 607 divided by 4 equals 151. Okay, 151.75, but 151. So that tells us, based on all the numbers that we just played with, I'm going to build a diet that is 1,650 calories, 150 grams of protein, 151 grams of carbs, and 46 grams of fat. Okay, that's my training day diet. On my off day, because it'll say, and then you don't have to, you can build one template. Okay. You could start with one template and be fine with that. But I want to show you the swing of that range, because it is a range, and maybe you feel a little bit better, or maybe you just love having, olive oils and fats and butter, all those things in your diet too. You could do it a little bit different. On this right side, took the fat floor. I took the 30%. I went to the 30%, which was 577. And divided that by 9, and that gave me 64 grams of fat. So just like over on this side, I took the 1,020. Now I'm deducting 577, and that leaves me with 443 to spend on my carbs. I divide that 443 by 4, and that leaves me with 110 grams of carbs. So that one then leaves me with 1,650 calories, 150 grams of protein, 110 grams of carbs, and 64 grams of fat. So not a huge swing, but hey, you will definitely notice the difference that on this side over here, you're probably having 4 of your 5 meals with carbs, or a big amount of carbs. And on this day, perhaps not. But that's, in a nutshell, how you're going to set up this first calorie amount setup. Okay. Does this make sense so far? Tell me in the chat if you're confused, or if you want me to use you as the example, because you still haven't gotten yours, let me know, and we can do that. We can use you as an example. Anyone? Let's see. Got it? You got it? Okay, good. Okay, Chris. So you are 110. Let me get a piece of paper here. And we're trying to set up your fat loss diet. Oh, you're the example of 150. Great. Okay, so at 110, we're going to first figure out your maintenance. And 110 times 14 is 1540. And then let's times 15 is 1650. So 1540 to 1650 is your maintenance. Taking you down to 11 times body weight. This is just makes me sad to see it. It's 1210. So you are that person, you know, when people like they make those posts like, not everybody lives on 1200 calories. Well, sadly, someone that, you know, when you do weigh less, I mean, it's just a matter of math and knowing the way the body works. So your fat loss calories would be 1210. Then we're going to take your fish oil. Let's call that 30. That's going to put you at 1180. Okay. Then you're going to have 110 grams of protein. 110 times 4. That's going to be 440. So we first did that 1210 minus your 30. That left you with 1180. Then we're going to take your 1180 and minus 440. That's your protein. Okay. That leaves you with 740. Okay. Now we're going to do, let's do 25% of the 1210. So let's see here what 25% is right in the middle. 25% of 1210 would be 302. Let me see what that's going to be. Oops. Okay, 302. Let me just figure this out. Okay, so 7. I'm going to share it all with you, but let me get this first. 138 divided by 120. Okay, so looking at yours, just seeing the swing, I'm actually, instead of doing 25% of your fat, Chris, I'm gonna do like 22% just because I want to see what your carbs will look like. So 22%, and this is just because you just don't have as much, you know, swing in calories. This has been a good example for people to see. So 22% of 1210. Okay, so it's gonna be 266. Let me just figure this out. 266 divided by 9. That's 1180 minus, what's that? No, that was not right. Sorry. Yeah, 22% of 12 times 260. Sorry, got to get this figured out here. All right, so we had 1180 left. And we're going to take 266 of it. I'm sorry, not that. One sec. I gotta make sure it's because I'm changing my math for you. Okay, so we're at the 740. 740 minus 266. Okay, 474. Okay, so I think that will leave you with, let's double check it. 110. Let me see here. 118 times 4. 474. And 266. Divided by 9. What am I doing wrong here that I need to? I'm going to come back to this. Okay. I will get it for you. Kiffin, I truly struggle with eating the right amount of macros every day. I definitely don't hit my protein or calories ever. I weigh 185. I will recalculate based on your math, but I haven't even been able to eat over 110. Okay. So part of that is you're probably not setting up the your day in a way where you're already getting enough at each meal. So that's kind of this next part of, once you get your numbers down, and Chris, I will help you. I just want to make some adjustments because you are what I would consider an outlier. So I'm even going to have you just email me and we'll go through it because your fat floor, we want to play with it between probably 20 and 22% and then leave the rest for carbs, which would probably leave you with around 130 grams of carbs, 110 grams of protein, and the rest with fats, but we'll do it. But struggling with, not having a meal plan set up, and we're going to go through that next. If lower fat lowers estradiol, would it follow that a postmenopausal female with estrogen positive breast cancer leans toward the lower end of fat? Susie, that's actually a really good question. I really actually want to ask my oncologist about this because he's, it'd be more of a nutritionist question, but I'm really curious about this, especially when it comes to breast cancer. Let me find out about that. But so going on to the next thing, now that we have your breakdown, okay, and you pretty much now know where you need to fit it in, you really need to now see, okay, how do I want to live? Because whether I'm dieting or I am in maintenance, like I need to live with some structure to my life. So you want to start to just like take a blank canvas. Now we're like setting these numbers to the side and we're thinking about how we want to live and how we want to get this all in, right? So you got to start to insert the food. So you first need to start by choosing the amount of meals that you plan to have in your day. Now, keep in mind, you got to be realistic. If you need to get in 150 grams of protein, it's going to be really hard to get that in say like 3 meals. Okay. If you've got 180 grams of protein to get in, probably going to be a little bit challenging to get in again in like 3 meals. So you need to accept that most people are going to be eating 4 to 5 meals a day so that they can get that protein in, or 4 bigger meals. Okay. So you first want to visualize your day as you're currently living and choose items that you love. Okay. So like if I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, here's my meal outline for the day. I know that, I get up at 7 and I'm going to eat my first meal probably around 9. Like this is how you want to be thinking in your life, that it has to be plugged into you. And most days I eat eggs at meal 1. Most day, and I'm only saying this because we're just creating a template. You're going to be able to change this. I mean, I have eggs one day, I have a yogurt parfait another day, I've had a country omelet on another day, meaning like these all fit within meal 1, but I'm just right now trying to visualize what that perfect day looks like. Okay. And then for me, meal 2 is a protein shake because this is post-workout. Meal 3, I'm usually having some sort of meat because it's lunchtime. It's a late lunch for me. Meal 4 is also a meat meal. I tend to stack these back to back. And then my last meal is either like the Ninja Creamy or a Greek yogurt. So notice how I've outlined how many meals I'm going to have. And I've kind of outlined like the foundational piece, which is your protein. Knowing that I can submount, I'm definitely not eating ground turkey every day, but what I do know is these 2 meals, my meals 3 and 4, are kind of my meat meals of the day. And my meal 5 is typically a non-meat meal. Every now and then I will sub in though and make an omelet or something, but it's usually like a Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, something like in my Ninja Creamy. And I just lay that in there with no amounts. Okay. Then I'm going to come through after I've kind of outlined my proteins and go, okay, well, what else in a perfect day do I really like to have at those meals? Well, I usually like to have eggs and oatmeal at meal 1, or it might be like my protein pancakes, but that's typically what I have at meal 1. Meal 2, like I said, is my training day. You know, I'm training, so it's my post-workout carbs and my protein shake. Meal 3, in a perfect day, I'm either having like ground turkey and couscous, or I might be having like chicken with tortillas, you know, but I'm going to put like something that I like there very much. My next meal is also a meat meal, and this might be like chicken and potatoes and some olive oil. I purposely, you know, put that I was going to have a protein here, a carb here, and a fat here. And I'm just going through again and just kind of outlining in a perfect day what that would look like. And then my last meal of the day, I put on here that I'd have like with my Greek yogurt, my peanut butter, or something along those lines. Now, I just saw a question here. Let me come back. This is a good question for pre-workout. Should we be eating a pre-workout meal or something to give us fuel? Absolutely. So you never want to eat on an empty stomach. Now, there are people that have probably done this for their whole life, not knowing that, you know, you're going into training in a catabolic state. What you do want to do then, at the very least, is have a serving of EAAs, not BCAAs, but essential amino acids. Or you could even have just even a half a scoop of, you know, protein powder and just drink a shake before you go. But you most certainly do not want to go on an empty stomach. You know, since you, let's see, you work out about 12. Well, if you eat at lunch, you're fine. Like that at 12 and you work out about 2 or 3. I mean, you technically really have not like broken down all the food in your body. But what I will say is this, you'll know based on your performance if you just don't have enough in your tank. So let's say you eat at 12 and you work out 2 o'clock, I'd probably be fine. 3, I might be pushing it. And then I feel like I probably should have ate something a little bit, you know, like closer to that. And this again is where that meal timing and you thinking about your day and how it works best for you is super, super important, right? Because you need to be able to be like, okay, well, if I'm going to train at this time, well, then I should try to, you know, like I personally don't like to eat too close to like a training, like leg day. I would probably throw up, but I don't like to be more than say 3 hours. So, in that case, let's say that you know, have to eat lunch at 12. And let's say for some reason you're going to get to the gym late and it's like past 3 and you are hungry, you could have a serving of those EAAs that's going to give you 10 grams of protein, or, you know, more importantly, it might just show you that you just need more fuel. And so you would want to have either a small meal right before, you know, you could even pair something as small as like a string cheese that has, you know, 5 to 6 grams of protein with, say, like a serving of fruit if you really needed to. But yeah, I would try to time that where I'm not waiting too long to eat. So you're going to, you know, just lay this outline out, okay? Then, of course, you're going to start to like plot those initial meals based on like those numbers that we just talked about. So if you're going to say, let's go back up to our little card that we created, and we already know that we're going to have 1,650 calories, 150 grams of protein. You know, if you're using this one on the left, you know, the 151 grams of carbs, you're going to divide that, at least the protein at the very least, evenly among the meals. Now, it doesn't always have to be that way. I'm just teaching you this way when you're first setting up your diet. I would divide them evenly amongst all of the meals. This just makes it easier math, easier to set up, and you can always shift things elsewhere later. So it would look like this, where I noticed that if I divided my calories and my protein evenly between the 5 meals, that I should roughly have 330 calories at each meal, and roughly, and I say roughly, no less than 25 grams of protein at each meal. Because if I do the math on that, that's going to take me back up to my total number that I needed. And I say roughly because you're going to have trace amounts of, you know, protein that's going to come, say, from the carbs you're eating. Like my oats has a couple grams of protein. So this is where once you roughly have, okay, I need to hit 5 meals a day, and they each need to be 330 calories and no less than 25 grams of protein, then you can start to play with creating your meal template. Okay. So notice I went from just writing out the food items I wanted to now actually creating them. And you can use MyFitnessPal for this part of the exercise. You could just go in there and go, okay, I want to have, eggs and egg whites for breakfast, and I need it to, match up to 25 grams of protein. What do I need to have? And kind of do the reverse math and then start to create these meals, right? Because like that person that had the question about getting that protein in, I already know by meal, like meal 4, I've had no less than 100 grams of protein, right, in there. And knowing that if I follow my templates, even more so. Let's say that you like have more protein in your diet, well, then you're going to divide that again amongst them, and you're going to know that you can't really have less than 40 grams of protein per meal. And so, I know I shared in the Facebook group, let me actually go in there right now. I shared my little cheat sheet. I think it's still up here. Let me go with the featured. Let me find that. Yes, okay. So let me just share this. Okay, so you should be able to see this cheat sheet here that's going to take you to this is just one showing you how to get in 30 grams per day. Okay, 30 grams per meal. So you could like double these, you could go 1.5, but this was just a quick cheat sheet to be like, hey, if I need to get 30 grams per meal, and that's just in protein, remember your other things are going to have some. So if you selected 30 grams on this, and then you add it to say like your tortillas and cheese, you're going to easily have like say 35 grams at that meal of protein. But this is a great, just quick cheat sheet to go and pick some proteins from. Is there a specific window for eating, number of hours? No. It comes a consistency game. I mean, people that talk about intermittent fasting and it being so miraculous, it's an eating window. I think why people were so drawn to it is when you force yourself into a shorter window, then it's a lot easier to only eat X amount of calories, right? But there's so many downfalls and so many negative things while we are in this perimenopause and menopause phase of our life that you do not want to be intermittent fasting. So specific window would be your wake times. So, and then how many calories you get to play with. Someone like Chris, for example, that weighs 110, even if she is someone that gets up at 6 a.m. and goes to bed at, say 10 p.m. at night, I guarantee you strategically, if I was someone like her, I'd probably not break my fast. Like if I'm not training in the morning, I'm definitely not breaking my fast until later. And I'm probably having, my meals, like in a closer window. So I'm just feeling more satisfied, right? So it really comes down to what helps you to be compliant. If you are something like I used to struggle at night where that was my time where I would cheat on my diet. So I have over the years gravitated towards this type of setup where I do not eat very much in my earlier hours of the day, and I stack 3 meals in the evening back to back to back. I have my meat, my afternoon meat meal, my next meat meal, and then I have my Ninja Creamy, and they all feel like they're pretty close within each other, and that has allowed me to be really consistent and compliant with the diet. So it's really, really important when you are, choosing that window. I mean, obviously knowing your wake and your sleep, when you wake up and when you are going to bed and how you're going to be able to manage that throughout that time. Okay. Now going back to, I think the building the diet. Once once you have your numbers, then like I said, you're going to go back, you're going to divide them in the way that you want, but I would at least evenly divide your protein initially and your calories initially. Then of course, over time, you can shift things around, like take this example here. This is a perfect example of kind of taking them and just dividing them evenly. So 335 calories, 330. I mean, there's one that there's a little bit less here, but for the most part, this was a 330 calorie per meal template on the training days and then on the off days. But you could be someone that trains first thing in the morning and doesn't want to have a meal first thing in the morning. And it might look something like this, where they're having just a serving of EAAs. And then that obviously wouldn't necessarily, and this person didn't want to have even calories at all of them and has, heavier meal 2 and heavier meal 3 at 505 calories, but the other ones are smaller. So my suggestion in first, just, obviously doing them evenly is just because it makes it easier for you to see. Plus, give it some time, like go and eat these, meals and see if you have times of day where you are more hungry or not, and then start to shift calories. Like I always take my failing as an opportunity to see where I needed to change the strategy. Like, okay, well, I'm really struggling. Like I had a client that every afternoon, like around, like we'd see it in her meal tracker that she was cheating on her diet, like around 4 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, what's happening at 4? Well, her kids were coming home from school. She actually didn't have like an allotted meal at that time, and she was snacking on their food. So we just created a meal at that time for her as well, so that she wasn't struggling with that anymore, right? So it is looking at your life and seeing where you are having obstacles and putting them in there. Any other questions? I want to share with you, I know the food sub calculator. Let me get that link. This is where you can come in. So as you saw, we create that first initial template, right? Then you want to go into here, not like now that you have your template built, then you want to honor those meals and that setup, and that stays that way calorie wise and protein wise. And now you can play with it and sub things in and out. And this is where the food sub calculator, comes into play. Now, let's say that you're someone that you're like, I really just hate, I don't like math. This just overwhelms me. Well, you can always join our Look Like You. When are we supposed to change calories? Okay, we will talk about that next. You can join our next round of Look Like You Train. Now, Look Like You Train is our group coaching program. We're in our 5th year of Look Like You Train. Look Like You Train is our way of, having a program that allows for, more people to afford it. One-to-one coaching is definitely in my mind, a luxury service. But our group coaching is $75 a month. And the bonus that makes it so worth it is we create the meal templates for you. You do not have to build your diet. So what that looks like for those people in there is when they come into our group, they have access to this folder. And in this folder is every 100 pounds, whatever you weigh, you get to come in here and click on that. If you weigh over 200, it tells you actually to email me. This is as customized as we can get outside of one-to-one coaching. So when you come in based on your weight, you're going to come in and it's going to give you access to the document and the PDF of a meal plan, not the food items that you like necessarily, but a meal plan based on the macro breakdown that I want that person to be eating. And then obviously in the group, we teach you how to take this meal plan and change it and customize it to you, your food items you like, which then is how we incorporate the food sub calculator. So this allows you just to, you don't have to worry about the math. And this helps you set up that initial diet. Now, when to change things and when to make adjustments. So if you're in our Look Like You Train group, every week we actually go live. So we do check-ins in there. We do a 2-week check-in, a 4-week check-in, a 6-week check-in, because we use what's called an outcome-based approach. What that means is you do not change anything within the calories until things stop working and they're no longer changing. And I mean by stop working, like this assumes that you're being compliant, and that it's not a matter of you needing to stick to it more. And instead, it's a matter of, you've had some metabolic adaptation. You now have dropped, let's say 10 pounds. And so now you weigh less and now your body needs less to be in that caloric deficit. So then that's when we make an adjustment. But what we've learned in the Look Like You Train program over time is honestly, like within, I think, because we do a challenge also in our group. And the first two challenges that we did like this 8-week challenge where they had to follow the meal plan, the meal templates, and everyone on average lost a pound a week, and everyone didn't even need a diet adjustment. They were still making progress that whole time. What they realized is they just needed to be more compliant to the actual diet. Kaylee, in your case, since you would actually be starting on that lower end at that 9 times body weight, you wouldn't even want to make an adjustment at all until you were able to lose enough to see that your body get closer to that 11 times body weight, because the goal would really be for you to be eating as much as you possibly can while still losing fat. Because remember, the more aggressive your fat loss diet is, the more ratio, when we're looking at the percentage ratio of muscle to fat, you're going to be losing more muscle versus fat. So the scale may show that you've lost 1.5 pounds, but of those 1.5 pounds, more than half of it could be coming from muscle versus fat. And this is where you see like the issue with things like Ozempic or Mounjaro, is that a lot of them, if they're aggressively dieting and they're just not able to eat much, they're losing a lot of muscle with that, which then also at the end of their, let's say at the end of their journey, their BMR is going to be a lot lower. They're going to have a basal metabolic rate where they're not able to eat very much because they have less of that muscle. So this is where the scale does not mean everything, okay? And that you don't want to be just, looking at that to see where you're, if you are having progress, whether or not progress or not. Now back over to this. So going through this, so you'll have 5 days. Over these next 5 days, we just open enrollment tonight to our Look Like You Train. We only do this 4 times a year. 4 times a year, we, open that up. But most of our people, I will say, stay in for, round upon round upon round, because 1, you're always going to need to have a solid strength training program that you're following. And 2, most of us, even if, you're at your fat loss goal, well, then in the group, we teach you how to reverse. We show you how to go back up. Like I said, we do group coaching calls every single week. So I go live every other week, and Eric goes live on those opposite weeks. So I do the official check-ins with the meal templates to ensure that you are using them, properly. And if they need to make adjustments, I coach you through that and show you how to do it. What it comes with in Look Like You Train is, you guys can all come over to this, and I'll share this landing page actually in the chat, but it comes with your ongoing group coaching program that opens 4 times a year. It comes with all your training, programmed in exactly what you're doing, exercise demos for every single, exercise we're using. We use the Train Heroic app. So you have an app that you follow where it even tracks like your PRs, it tracks your, your rest intervals, everything. We also encourage you in our group, our private group, to share your exercise demos so that Eric can give you feedback. Like you submit how you're doing and we give you feedback. In addition to that, like I said, we do all the nutrition templates in there to make sure that your diet's set up, because we all know that you can be, in the gym and doing all the work in the gym, but if your diet does not support your goals, you're really just not going to see much change, right? And then of course, like accountability, a lot of us can second guess ourselves. We start to build the diet and then we, are like, am I doing it right? Should I be changing my things? And then we sabotage, right? So, all that to say, if you are frustrated with, not being able to build it yourself, based on this. And I'm going to send out this recording so you can watch it again and start to build it. And hey, feel free to reach out to me and send me any questions you have. This is my email, amy@leanbodiesconsulting.com. So if you get off this and you're like, oh my gosh, I got through the math, but I'm still not really sure, shoot me an email. Like I can help you get that set up. So you at least walk away from this already having your diet set up, knowing how much protein you need to have. And if you're still struggling, make sure you're in our community. I will share Kiffin tomorrow. I'll share more ways to get that in, because protein is like my thing that I actually end up being like, I'm having too much. So it's just, you need the right things. You need a Ninja Creamy. I will tell you that. I went and visited both my mother and my father and bought them Ninja Creamies, because you know what? If there's one way to get 40 grams of protein in, it's in the Ninja Creamy at night. And that right there is a chunk of people's, calorie or, protein requirements right there in just one meal. So I will be thinking of you and putting that in there. Any other questions you have for us, please leave them in the community. Otherwise, Look Like You Train is now officially open for enrollment. We hope to see some of you in there. We always cap our group. I believe we have about 30 spots this round to hit our 600. We really like to keep just a close, positive group. I know we're doing a book club this time, and we've done one in the past. Our book this time is going to be Worthy by Jamie Lynn Kerma. And any other questions you have, please feel free to leave them in the community or shoot me an email. All right. Have a great night, you guys. I know that it is late. Thank you for hanging with me and staying so long. Okay. Take care.